Last year, I bought the Oculus Quest 2 to try out VR. I honestly didn't like the experience. And then earlier this year, the word meta and metaverse had been so overused, no thanks to Mark Zuckerberg, and I eventually sold off that Quest 2 as well because it just left a very bad taste in my mouth when it comes to VR. And at that time, it was in the peak of all the metaverse hype, and I didn't actually lose any money by buying the Quest 2, test out all of the accessories and whatnot, and then sell it back. That's actually quite miraculous. Then, of course, Meta is not the only player in the VR industry, and what we have today here is the PICO 4 VR headset. And I've been using this headset for quite a long time, to the point where I forgot to make this video because I had so much fun with this headset. So let me tell you my story of how I managed to love VR once again because of the PICO 4. Let's start by just speedrunning through the unboxing experience. The PICO 4 comes with the standard set of stuff. So we have the headset itself, the two controllers, a strap for each controller so that we can tie it to our hands, because later if you want to play some games, the controller, it's best to prevent it from flinging it somewhere else. And then we also have a charger and also the cable for charging, and we also have two more accessories that you can choose to use or not, and those are the spacer and also the nose piece. We'll get more into this later. And after digging out everything, I advise you to not throw away the box because you can reuse the box as a storage box for the VR headset. It can provide proper protection for your VR headset and also protects from scratching the lens and to prevent any light, especially UV light, from entering that lens, because you can damage the screen if excessive light goes inside. And now we'll talk about the headset itself. I'll have to say that this headset is rather sleek and rather lightweight yet comfortable to wear at the same time. There's a soft padding around the perimeter of the eyes that can be taken out and be washed, and the back piece here that goes to the back of your head is covered by a larger piece of harder cushion, but it is also wrapped in PU leather. As for how you should wear the headset, you should first do this, rotate the headset upwards, and then position your eye to the point that you can see clearly on the screen. Then flip this back down, turn the knob behind to the point that it's comfortable and it doesn't move around, and then this top strap here is supposed to counterbalance both sides of the headset from falling downwards. So overall, pretty standard in terms of how you should wear a VR headset. Just make sure not to over tighten anything or you'll be having a very bad time. And back to the spacer piece. This is actually for those who are wearing prescription glasses and you want to use VR headset at the same time. However, I will advise you to be careful because the frame of your glasses might still scratch the VR lens even with the spacers installed. And then the nose piece. I'm really glad that PICO included this inside the box, because if you're like me, once you wear the VR headset, then you will realize that light will leak upwards from your nose around this part into the VR headset, and it is rather distracting. So if that happens to you, just use this nose piece to block all of that light so that you can get a better VR experience. What I don't really like though is the super glossy front here, which definitely will scratch, and if you're not careful, then just reuse the included stickers from the factory to protect it, or buy a skin. The bottom of this headset has two microphones and one vent that goes all the way through to the top, and obviously this is for cooling, and there is actually a fan inside this VR headset to keep the air circulating. As for the remote controls, they are fairly standard in terms of design. It feels rather ergonomic, and all of the A, B, X, Y buttons and the thumbstick are also able to detect my fingers while I rest on top of them. Each controller also has a colored circle button which brings up the quick settings overlay. I don't know what to call this, I'm just gonna call it quick settings anyway. And there is actually a hidden feature between these controllers' buttons, which we will talk about later. Each controller also takes double AA batteries, and luckily those are all included in the box, so we can just unbox this VR headset and get started right away. However, I do advise you to use rechargeable battery like IKEA's Lada batteries, since those throwaway alkaline-based batteries will have a very high chance of leakage, which will permanently damage your controller. Okay, so enough about the hardware. Let's boot up the headset. And Firstly, you have to go through the setup process, which I did not record, but once you got everything set up, you go into the home screen menu and please do update your firmware because PICO had added a lot of features since it launched. The interface of the PICO 4 is very familiar if you played around with the Quest 2 before. Most of the things work more or less the same way, and yes, the PICO 4 is indeed using a modified version of Android, and it also uses APK installation files. Since we're here, we might as well talk about the settings available. There are a lot of things that we can change, and the most important here is the IPD, also known as the interpupillary distance, which is the distance between your two pupils. Everyone has a different value actually. So you need to configure the IPD value according to the green circles. So if it looks the clearest to you, then just use that IPD. That is because I measured my IPD at an optometry and then they told me my IPD is supposed to be 69mm, but when I set it to 69mm on the PICO 4, it looked very weird. And then I eventually played around the settings and I found out that 66.5mm was the clearest for me, so I'm sticking with that. One good thing about the PICO 4 is that the IPD adjustment has a servo motor inside and you can select all the way down to 0.5mm of increments, which is a huge improvement over the Quest 2. We can also increase the refresh rate all the way up to 90Hz and configure its power management as well. So if we change the power management to power saving, then it says the display quality will be lowered. I just think that they are lowering the polygon count and save on processing cost, hence increasing the battery life of the VR headset. And then you also need to remember to redeem your 4 free games, because every purchase of the PICO 4 from now until January of 2023 are eligible for 4 free games. I have not played Down the Rabbit Hole yet. From the trailer, it seems to be a point-and-click adventure game that is based on the classic Alice in Wonderland story, but with a few plot twists and whatnot. And then the second game that I have not played is O Shape. From the thumbnail alone, it kinda already told us how we should play the game, but surprisingly, it does have some elements of Beat Saber mixed inside. And then there's the all-in-one sports VR. There are a lot of games in this game that you can play with your friend, and I'm using the singular form of friend here because it does not support multiplayer. There is bowling, archery, boxing, billiard, darts, golf, and even badminton and many more. Surprisingly, some of these sports were added via an update, and I think they will add even more games down the line. And then the game that I played the most is After the Fall. This is kind of like Left 4 Dead but for VR, and I played with Rexstack and Mr. John there because it's just more fun that way, and this game could be very challenging at times. It's a very well-made zombie shooter game, and I captured a lot of random footages, and I'm just gonna show you all on the screen here. While I do like the game, the main campaign of the story is kinda short, and it's just divided into a few short missions, and that's it. We'll have to play some other modes or replay some of those missions at a higher difficulty to get more playtime out of it. Of course, the PICO 4 also has its own app store. I can see that day by day, the app library is growing quickly. There are many apps and games that are available on other platforms that are just ported over to the PICO 4 headset. Here's a full list of them. I was enticed by one of the apps that's called Virtual Speech, which is literally a public speaking simulator. That kind of opened my eyes into the possibilities of using VR for some sort of training tool. And one notable omission here though is Beat Saber. It's not available in the PICO Store, but we do have Virtual Desktop here. But what if you want to play some PC VR games like maybe Half-Life Alyx? Well, you can. Introducing the PICO Link app. Just head into PICO's website, download this tool, and then install it onto your PC. Then you will also need to install Steam VR because that PICO Link will rely on Steam VR to work. And it will take some time because the file size is kinda huge. After that, launch the PICO Link app, and then it will ask you if you want to connect through cable or through Wi-Fi. If you select through Wi-Fi, then make sure both your PC and the PICO 4 are connected to the same network, and then open the Streaming Assistant app on the PICO 4, and then click on Connect, and then it will just connect. Then you need to launch your games on your PC, and then you can start playing PC VR games. but you might want to do some settings first. However, all of these settings are bound to SteamVR, so I'm not gonna talk about it here, and instead show you some screenshots of what settings I use instead. Of course, all PC VR games work as expected. I had a great time playing Job Simulator and also Half-Life Alyx, and I'm happy with it. I do have a few more tips and tricks for you. On the right controller, there is a camera button which you can press once to take a screenshot, and if you hold it, then it will actually start screen recording. Holding the button once again will stop the screen recording. And then on the right controller once again, for the purple circle button, if you press once, then the UI overlay will come out. But if you hold that button, then it will actually recenter your view. This is extremely handy if you feel like the things just kind of run out of position and you want to reset your view. And PICO never actually told us any of these features. It's just that I kind of remember it during my days of the Oculus Quest 2, and then I tried it. Surprisingly, these kind of shortcuts work as well. And if you want to stream what you are seeing on your headset to maybe Twitch or something like that, then you can use the casting feature that is built into the PICO 4. You can just get the link, type it into OBS, and then you can start streaming right away. As for the battery life, the PICO 4 wouldn't last very long actually. We played After the Dark for about 1.5 hours and the headset starts complaining that the battery is very low. Same goes to wireless streaming for PC VR games as well, and it also can last for about 1.5 hours, that's it. As for the charging speed of the PICO 4, they did include a 20 watts charger, but from what I have tested, this headset can only take up to 18 watts maximum. And that's it. And that means it will also take quite some time to charge the headset as well, but I guess that is a good thing since I can take a rest and prevent myself from nausea. So if I have managed to convince you to consider getting the PICO 4 over the Oculus Quest 2, or now known as the Meta Quest 2, then you need to take note of some of these differences. Number 1, the aforementioned IPD adjustment. PICO 4 has a super wide range of adjustment that you can fine-tune all the way down to 0.5mm of increments. The Quest 2 can only select 3 different values and nothing else. And number 2, the included strap. When I got the Quest 2 last year, I immediately hated the original strap, and then it just sucked so bad that I ordered the Bobo VR M2 strap, and it improved my comfort a lot, but the 2 antenna thing of the Bobo VR M2 strap presses down on my head so much that it stopped my blood flow and gave me a headache. Then the PICO 4 though, the included strap is very similar to the Quest 2's Elite strap, but it does have an included speaker and also integrated volume buttons onto the strap, which means that we cannot take apart the strap and just change it like the Quest 2. Number 3, audio jack. The Quest 2 has an audio jack, so you can connect an earphone or a headphone to get whatever audio quality that you want. The PICO 4, however, does not have any audio jacks, so you're stuck with the built-in speakers that are on the strap. We can connect Bluetooth earphones or headphones, but I really don't want to deal with audio delay. Number 4 is the App Store. Now, both of these VR headsets will have their own app stores, but like what we mentioned earlier, the PICO 4's App Store is currently still limited in comparison, but it is definitely growing day by day. That's kind of expected because the PICO 4's ecosystem is considered still new. So yeah. Number 5 is the maximum refresh rate. For the PICO 4, it can only go up to 90Hz, whereby the Quest 2 has an option for us to enable all the way up to 120Hz. I know a lot of people will say higher refresh rate is absolutely crucial for a better VR experience, but in this case, I would say having proper comfort like the IPD adjustment selection is much more important compared to refresh rate. So with all of those said, I will still pick the PICO 4 over the Quest 2 without any questions asked. The comfort level of the PICO 4 is just so much better than the Quest 2, particularly thanks to the IPD adjustment and also the included straps. PC VR games, you literally won't have to worry because they use SteamVR as the framework anyway, so it will just work like any other VR headsets when it comes to PC games. And yet, the PICO 4 is available here in Malaysia at 1,699 for the 108GB storage version with local warranty. And this is actually cheaper than the Quest 2, which starts at $1,849 for the 128 gigs storage version. And let's not forget that the Quest 2's original strap sucks, and you will also need to purchase the nose piece separately to get the same out-of-the-box experience as the PICO 4 in terms of hardware. But with that said, the PICO 4 is still not perfect, but I would say it's good enough to provide a fantastic user experience just out of the box. And we have also planned yet another video where we talk about some of the must-have accessories when it comes to the PICO 4, so do subscribe for that as well. And that's it, that's our review of the PICO 4. I think this video is gonna be quite long, but I hope this is informative for you guys, and if you have any questions, do leave them down in the comment section below, and I will answer them whenever I can. So yeah, do subscribe and we'll see you there.